Hello and welcome to a farm in Lancashire. As you may know from my recent videos, I have sold my boat and started the process of buying a house. And the idea with that is not so much that I'm not able to boat anymore now, but I'm looking 20, 30 years into the future when I won't be perhaps so agile. And you do need a certain amount of dexterity, flexibility to actually live on a narrowboat. But what if you started with an absolute blank slate? You could custom design a narrowboat, taking into account any infirmities you might have now and that you might have later on in life. Would you be able to design a narrowboat for the older generation? That's what I'm here to find out. Peter and Tina Chambers are inspecting progress on the build of their brand new boat. About 80% finished, it's been designed from the ground up to accommodate their physical and medical needs.
Unfortunately, I had a stroke a few years back, and that made me think, oh, do you know, I'm never going to be able to get on and off a boat or anything. You know, perhaps that's not really an option. So it was a few years before we started going back out on a canal boat holiday. And when we were out on that holiday, we came across some people that had a shared ownership boat. And you know, that never really occurred to us that we could boat like that, because I'd thought about buying a boat, but then thought, well, we only have 4 weeks holiday a year, so if we have a boat, we've got to look after it when we can't be on it. So we joined a syndicate, and we had a jolly good time boating, and I realised more and more that actually I could do all the things that I needed to. It took me a little while to get enough confidence about jumping off a boat, a moving boat, and jumping back on it again. But you know, we sort of came round to the idea of actually retiring and having our own boat because of our experience really as shared owners.
Years and years went by and it became more and more obvious to us that we could do this for extended periods of time. It would be nice not to have to think, I'm going back to work on Monday morning. We could do this for weeks. And we thought, wow, what sort of boat would we want? We didn't want to buy a boat like the hire boat or one of the old-fashioned diesel boats, and we started looking at what was coming on the market, noting that people had parallel hybrids or pure electric boats or the new sort of serial hybrid, and we started to do some serious research.
And this is the result, a 57 feet long electrically propelled narrowboat designed for extended cruising or even living aboard. Let's have a quick nose around before getting into some specifics. It's a reverse layout with the saloon-cum dinette at the back, double glazed with a solid hardwood floor, and yes, these seat cushions are on order. The galley's next with mains-powered appliances, including a large fridge freezer and a washing machine. The bathroom boasts an incinerating toilet and a rather compact bathtub with shower over. The bedroom is still under construction at the bow.
Our design brief really was to have a boat that we could use as easily as possible. I often say to people that I'm very lazy, and actually if you're going to be lazy you need to do it properly.
That meant some decisions were immediately apparent.
We designed out lifting of heavy things. The boat is gas-free, so that we don't have to lift heavy gas cylinders, because I can't and Peter shouldn't.
Likewise, the oven, grill and microwave have been installed at head or torso height, rather than having to get down on your knees to open the door and put in or take out food. The fridge freezer is also raised, with the bigger fridge part being at eye level and the less used freezer section below, but still up off the floor to minimise crouching down. With no gas aboard, the cooktop uses electric induction, which also minimises condensation and fumes and saves the need for a gas safety certificate. Even the toilet is electric, burning all the waste and leaving just ash to be emptied.
What we wanted to do was have a toilet system that didn't involve like heavy lifting and taking heavy things for long distances to empty cassettes, for example.
Having once arrived at Cropriddy, and we found there's a folk festival on, the mooring you can get is the one that's about 1.5 kilometres away down the muddy towpath. I didn't fancy carrying a heavy cassette to the service point and back.
We've had problems in the past with pump outs and not necessarily being able to pump out when you want to, so we weren't keen to go down that.
Everything, including propulsion and the toilet, gets powered from this whopping lead carbon battery bank with a usable 28 kilowatt-hour capacity. There's solar and a generator for topping up on overcast days.
Quite a lot of work was thinking, do I want to clamber here? Do I want to go into the engine room and end up with grease all over my arms? No. So there's quite a lot of, can we get rid of this, can we get rid of that? That drove us a little bit straight away towards electric motors.
The motor chosen is a 15 kilowatt unit from Bell Marine. It and the diesel generator are water-cooled using skin tanks. A waterproof display in the cockpit gives the driver information about speed and battery draw, with the throttle being this little silver joystick, bow thruster control below. The system runs at 48 volts, with a collection of inverters, chargers and communications boxes all talking to each other, with a screen in the saloon showing the state of all the bits. The boat builder reckons this is the shape of things to come.
From when I first started 15 years ago, it's changed so much from the internal fit out to the propulsion side of things. Everything is just flipped on a coin. It's completely different. People want electric propulsion for not only for the environment, rising diesel costs, the silence, upkeep, all those things. It all adds up. At the end of the day, it's an enjoyable experience to be on a boat. You don't want to be having to do all sorts of jobs day in, day out. You just want to relax, go with the flow. So I think that's what electric propulsion brings to so many people, and I think that's why it's going to be on the rise and rise and rise.
The cruising range you can get is enormously larger. Your power is being topped up by solar, and your diesel is being eked out through a generator. And that will allow us to cruise to the north, where there are fewer marinas. We've also taken care to sign with a marina group that allows guest boating. So we can stay for a few weeks at marinas that are not our home base, which means if we need to go back home for a few weeks to sort something out, work or family or whatever, we can park the boat for those few weeks, use public transport to go backwards and forwards, and then resume our journey. So we should be able to get to Lancaster, and we should be able to get to Ripon and all points north and south, Bristol and so on.
Even the boat's roof has been carefully planned, with 1,500 watts of solar panels sharing the space with a few air vents in an unusually Spartan layout.
When it's things like going onto the roof, especially if it's been raining, we thought we'd just try and design that out. So our boat has very little on the roof. It has some solar panels, and it has some very easy steps to get on the roof, so there's very little risk of clambering. We have features like having fore and aft shoreline power, so there's no need to go on the roof and run long extension lines, as long as you can get to the centre lines or do a few things like reach the boat pole. No need for going up and down.
Here in the bedroom in the bow, instead of having a single double fixed bed, as would be conventional, they're having two half beds that will fold in electrically like Tower Bridge, so that they're down when you want to go to bed at night, but fold up out of the way during the day. And that means that if someone at the back needs to run through, for example, to do an emergency anchor deployment while on a river, the bed is up and out of the way, and they're not having to fight their way over a bed to get through to the bow.
We also had the advantage of YouTube. And the advantage of YouTube, and particularly during lockdown and managing to find so many boat YouTubers, it was really good seeing what they got on their boats. And actually being able to see things that would actually think, oh, do you know, actually that would be quite helpful. I wonder whether we can incorporate that. And one of those things was our bow locker. We had our bow locker designed to take our bicycles so that when we're out and about, we can easily access that.
Not only is the bow locker large and accessible, but the well deck is a splendid example of a gin deck, somewhere to sit and relax with a gin and tonic around the very stylish resin-filled table, whose construction is echoed not only on the galley worktops, but also in the saloon dinette. Elsewhere in the saloon, a diesel stove provides heat, chosen over a wood and coal burner so as to minimise dust and air pollution, again for health reasons. There's also diesel-fired central heating. But despite all the thought they've put in, can the couple cope with handling a 15-ton boat?
When I'm pulling on a rope and pulling against that, I'm not so likely to fall over because I'm holding on to something heavy on the other side, really. What we do find though is I pull the boat in, and then Peter will do the low level tying up the boat and things. So we have to do it as a partnership. I don't think singly either one of us would necessarily be that comfortable with having a boat on our own, but as a team, as a pair, we manage to do what the other person can't do.
There is such a thing as seamanship. We are both booked as a couple onto the helmsman's course next month. Now, when I look at boat vloggers, you see young people leap off the boat and pull on the rope very strongly and stop their boat in motion. I don't do that. I use the engine to stop the boat, and Tina can pull it in, or I can pull it in. Our style of handling of the boat is a lot less muscular than young people who can do so quite thoughtlessly. And I've previously had RYA courses because I've done dinghy sailing and powerboating in the past. So the way of handling the boat is not just sort of what you pick up on doing a bit of hire boating, thinking of the momentum and how you use the engine to stop the boat, how you use the engine to bring the boat in, or manoeuvre it with a bit of skill. We've also made sure that our boat has a bow thruster, which is the first time we've had one. And I've often said that if you don't have a bow thruster, you'll be pleased with your skill in doing without one. But the moment you get one, you'll be very pleased that you actually got it and proud of your skill in using it. So I think in terms of limited mobility and limited strength, we've thought of things that will mitigate the problems that we'll have.
Just before we end, as well as YouTube, Peter and Tina also wanted to give a nod to some particular boats they've taken inspiration from.
For instance, the captains of Old Nick, Perseverance and Hunky Dory, and boats such as Falcon, which I saw at Crick last time, looking around their boats and seeing what they could achieve and believing that I could achieve it too. So we subscribed to several of the magazines as well and read the descriptions of them all avidly, thinking that, well, if they can do it and the technology's there and I can write it down in a spreadsheet, we could have that too.
The owners of this boat have clearly put a lot of time and effort into planning to make sure that everything on board is as relaxed and stress-free as possible. I think it might be interesting to come back in a year or two's time and see if there's anything else they want to add or any things they just felt they didn't actually need after all. Thanks for watching. Cheerio. Hello and welcome to a farm in... Oh, for goodness sakes. Shush!